On January 4th, 2013, the peaceful barangay of Tabon in Kawit, Cavite, Philippines, was shattered by one of the most horrifying mass shootings in recent Philippine history. Ronald Bay, a 41-year-old man whose life had been a complex mix of wealth, power, and secrecy, entered the community carrying a semi-automatic pistol and an unimaginable rage. By the end of his rampage, 7 innocent lives had been taken, 12 others injured, and a small town would never be the same again. Bay, known locally by the nickname Bossing, had a history that baffled neighbors. Some remembered him as a helpful, generous man, often lending a hand to those in need. Others saw a darker side, describing him as a volatile individual who could quickly erupt into violence over trivial matters. Before the shooting, Bay had lived in different towns, moving frequently from Kawit to Tagaytay and Pampanga, leaving neighbors puzzled about his constant relocation. The morning of January 4th began like any other. Residents were slowly returning to their routines after the New Year's festivities. At around 9 a.m., Bay, together with his house caretaker, 27-year-old John Paul Lopez, entered a local store. They asked about a man named Berto, but when the children of the Camo family informed them that he was not there, Bay snapped. Drawing a .45 caliber Colt 1911, he immediately began shooting. 7-year-old Michaela Andrea Camol was killed on the spot, while her younger siblings, Ken Cedric and Michelle, were critically injured. From there, Bay's rampage spiraled into chaos. Armed with an AK-47 and an M16 rifle, which police later recovered from his residence, he moved through the streets, firing indiscriminately. Pregnant women, tricycle drivers, vendors, and even innocent bystanders became targets. Among the victims were Ria de Vera, 34, pregnant with her second child, and her 3-year-old daughter John Monica, who were tragically killed in their own home. The attack also claimed the lives of Alberto Fernandez, 55, Irene Funilas, 40, Aldorio, 20, Boyet Toledo, 44, and Adoracion Cabrera. Witnesses recalled the surreal horror as Bay walked down the street, seemingly calm, firing at anyone who crossed his path. One resident described him as moving like a ghost, his face blank, expressionless, while a trail of destruction followed him. Lopez assisted him by reloading his pistol whenever Bay ran out of bullets. The shooting lasted roughly 30 minutes, leaving a haunting silence in its wake. Bay's motives remained largely unclear. Investigators later revealed that he had recently discovered he was adopted, which may have triggered a personal crisis. Additionally, he had been using methamphetamine, which likely intensified his erratic behavior. Despite this, Bay's past hinted at a life of complexity beyond drugs. He was the son of a former police chief, had earned a living buying and selling cars, and bred gamecocks on his farm. His wife, Elena, with whom he had 5 children, described him as a good father, but noted that he had begun using drugs again amid personal and familial struggles. The aftermath of the shooting was devastating. Police arrived quickly and confronted Bay outside his home. Despite warnings to surrender, he continued firing until officers fatally shot him. Lopez initially disappeared but eventually surrendered to authorities. He later claimed that Bay had threatened him to reload the gun, a story investigators doubted, leading to his arrest and charges of multiple murder and frustrated murder. Authorities then uncovered a darker layer to the story. Lopez hinted that Bay had killed other individuals in previous years, burying them around his property. Forensic searches unearthed skeletal remains of a man named Teodoro Villanueva, a former helper of Bay allegedly killed in 2003 over a dispute involving fighting cocks. This revelation painted a chilling picture of Bay's capacity for violence and deception, showing a man who could live a seemingly normal life while harboring unimaginable secrets. The community was left grappling with shock, grief, and fear. Neighbors struggled to reconcile the man they had known with the mass murderer who had turned their streets into a scene of carnage. Children who survived the shooting faced lifelong trauma, and families mourned those who had been lost in seconds. The local government and police faced scrutiny over how Bay had been able to accumulate firearms, including high-caliber rifles and pistols, despite his known history of drug use. comparisons were inevitably drawn to other mass shootings worldwide. The randomness of Bay's attack, the involvement of innocent children, and the brutality of his actions mirrored the tragedy of Sandy Hook Elementary School in the United States. Though in a small Philippine barangay, this led to increased discussions on gun control, police oversight, and community safety across the region. In the following weeks, the investigation revealed further disturbing details. Bay had left behind a complex web of financial dealings, including properties in multiple towns and a farm where he bred poultry and gamecocks. Despite his wealth, little was known about his true sources of income or the reasons behind his frequent relocations. Authorities speculated that a combination of personal, familial, and possibly financial pressures, compounded by drug abuse, had contributed to the massacre. The tragic event also sparked public outcry. Civilians questioned the effectiveness of local law enforcement and demanded stricter controls over firearms and monitoring of individuals with violent tendencies. Philippine President Benigno Aquino III publicly condemned the attack, highlighting the need for tighter regulation of unlicensed firearms and improved response mechanisms for communities at risk. Despite Bay's death, questions lingered. How could a man with such a dark side coexist unnoticed in a community? Were there warning signs that neighbors had missed or authorities had ignored? And most chillingly, how many other individuals with hidden violent tendencies might be living unnoticed in seemingly quiet towns? Today, the memory of the Kawit mass shooting serves as a stark reminder of the fragile line between normalcy and horror. Ronald Bay may be gone, but his actions left a permanent scar on the lives of those who survived, the families of the victims, and the community at large. The story of Bay is one that continues to haunt the Philippines, a shocking example of how violence can erupt in even the most unsuspecting places. For the people of Kawit, healing is an ongoing process. Support for victims and families remains crucial, while the broader questions about gun control, community vigilance, and mental health are still debated across the country. The Kawit shooting, a tragedy born of personal demons, drugs, and unchecked violence, is a story that demands remembrance, reflection, and the constant pursuit of prevention. If you want more shocking stories, subscribe to our channel now.